Okay, folks, so we're here with one of the founding members of the Canadian National Tippler Union, and you all know who this gentleman is. This is Oscar Zovich. I thought it was appropriate to ask him a couple of questions about the 30 years that the CNTU has been in existence. So, Oscar, just a couple of questions. First one is, how did we start the club? That, I guess, October 1984. Kind of, what was the reason? How did we get started? And who was the member that started the club?
Well, first of all, at that time there was no club in Canada. There were some Tippler men, but the club, the CNTA at the time, stopped existing in 1973. In 1974, I met our friends that many of us knew, who unfortunately is not among us anymore, passed away, became a basic. In summer of '84, he started working at the same place as I worked, and he introduced me into Tipplers. I had pigeons all my life, but not Tipplers. Gifted me a pair of Tipplers, and this is where I started.
And there was one other member that joined in as well.
However, when we started the CNTU, or OTU at the time, it was in 1984, 10 years later. In the meantime, I was member of FTA and restarted CNTA, which I restarted in 1980. Due to some differences of opinion, I chose to step out of CNTA, and I suggest that we start Ontario Tippler Union. And the guys that joined in, the very first three of us were Denny Kinnear, Chemo Basic, and myself. I being a president, Denny secretary, and Chemo wanted to be just an ordinary member. We needed three to get affiliated to the FTA. Well, from that point on, everything is history, basically.
Yeah. Well, speaking of history, Oscar, it's been 30 years, and that's quite an achievement. You know, clubs don't survive 30 years without some key people in the club over the years. Do you have any kind of memories, things that you recollect, fond memories over the 30 years that you can mention to us? Because most of the stuff, the history, we read it in paper where you actually lived it.
There were a lot of good memories. Unfortunately, good memories come some of the ones that I really not going into it. It's just like anything else in life. Not everything is smooth. But
guys like Harry Hunt, George Vertoli.
I met some great Tippler men here in Canada and abroad, specifically Harry Hunt, Donnie Wilson, Sid Billinger, George Vertoli, just to name a few. But also I met Harry Shannon and
Bobby Dunseith.
Fenton and Bobby Dunseith and Dave Werner and Dave Black. And all sorts of others. Sorry to not to.
I know, I put you on the spot.
Right. At the moment, all the names, but I met a lot of different people and made some friendships.
Well, you know what? I just want to say, if it wasn't for you, Chemo, and Danny, we certainly wouldn't all be here. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the membership, and happy anniversary, buddy.
Thank you.
You are on Mississauga. Are you coming towards Central Park? Before Central? Okay, then very first left, the highway, very yes. If you're, I don't know, are you coming to the west side or the east side on Mississauga?
See that young blue bar front? There, Lucas. That's from the open water. And these are from him too. Second left.
So these are the young bird class 2014, and the membership is voting for best in show, or actually best young bird. So we're here with the North American young bird record holder Nino Bugeja with a time of 60:45 current. So we wanted to ask Nino a couple of questions about his breeding methods and flying. So without further ado, Neen, welcome to our show and picnic.
Well, this is a great day for a show and picnic. We got very lucky today. It was supposed to be raining, but as you can see, we're in a shady little grove here. It's really nice. Guys in Australia love us for this. But anyway.
Absolutely, a far cry from last year.
Oh, yeah.
With all the rain.
Oh.
So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Neen, about you being a record holder, I think unprecedented 4 times with young birds. So we wanted to know a little bit about your birds and how you breed them and some of your secrets. So how do you breed the birds? What is your kind of thinking when you're pairing up?
My kind of thinking is that, first of all, you know, I got 16 years with this family of birds, and so I have a pretty good idea of how they perform and how they breed. But barring all that, I do a lot of physical compensation, which means basically matching up the birds for their faults and their strong points. So I do that when I consider the pairing.
Okay.
And I consider their background on the breeding and their ancestral lines. And other than that, that's just about how I do things.
Okay, so a prerequisite of a bird had to, has to be flown is not really, I mean...
Well, it's not 100% that, no. Okay, but mostly yes, I'd have to say. And that's about it. I check for all the regular stuff that I think I'm sure a lot of hobbyists do, and it's feathering and proportions and size when the youngsters come down. And I start in early February when I want to go into a competition for our long day fly. I start the first week of February pairing them up, and the reason for this, in my view, is to be able to get them on the roof of my loft by early April. And they're about 5 weeks old at that point, and they go on the loft for a week to 2 weeks and get settled. Hopefully hawks leave you alone and you don't lose everything and things like that. You got enough to make a cat.
So listen, one thing I've noticed about you over the years, you're about the strictest color of birds and what gets into the breeding section. Kind of, what's your mythology as far as that goes? Because I've not seen anybody as strict as you when it comes to who gets into the breeding pen.
Well, for me, that's where the ancestral line comes in.
Yeah.
They have to have an ancestral line of good flying, solid flying, which I mean as young birds in training. I can fly them, 10 hours minimum, okay, on very light feed, which is, to me is barley, mostly whole barley, and I don't use malt or any of those other barleys. I just use standard whole barley and a little bit of a stronger feed. I did notice that the barley and split green peas works quite well with the protein level and the carbohydrates for the barley. It's just strictly a training feed.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So over the years, the only thing I've noticed with you is that you train young birds. Why young birds?
I always felt it was more of a challenge to train the young birds, and when I first got back into Tipplers, the current record for young birds was 1602, I believe.
Yep.
And so it was the challenge. I know that Oscar Zovic and a couple other fellows like yourself, Luca, you were flying mostly old birds, and the only other fellow at the time that I really knew that was a challenge in young birds was Kimo Basic, who is our good friend who's passed now, and he was a young bird flyer, also flew old birds too, but he went after the young bird record and he did break it, so that's good for Kimo. But the young birds have more of a challenge, in my view.
So, you care to share anything that you use as far as a feed up for the type of grains, or kind of what you're thinking first, second, third day, fourth day feed up, 3-day feed up? Which do you prefer?
I used to do a 4 to 5 day feed up as a rule, and I would feed them in part of the week, twice a day, but smaller amounts. Some in the morning, some in the evening, just to even out the sugar displacements, is my view, and to be gathered up by their liver and other organs. And I would use primarily still barley, some barley, and then all the energy and high-fat feeds that you can come up with. A lot of carbohydrates.
Gotcha.
You got to have carbohydrates. So.
Okay. Anything else you like to add in respect to flying record times? That's kind of your thing.
The other thing is I asked from the birds, I gave them patience. I didn't ask for anything too much till they got doing 5 to 7 hours. And I understood with young birds after a while that patience was the main key, and the time will come if you just let them get into shape and into form, and that's really what was required. By the time they were 9 to 10 weeks old, they were ready for a long day fly, if the kit was of any value at all, in my view. And that's primarily what I did. Anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks was the time frame that I flew all the records in.
Excellent. So thank you very much for sharing some of your ideas. Any suggestions that you want to kind of give the membership as far as anything in general?
As far as the membership goes, the hobby is a great hobby, and I hope they go forward with it for a very long time. The only other thing about their loft conditions would be to keep overcrowding out of their loft. Overcrowding is the worst thing that can be done, and you know, every bird deserves a perch, and use a scraper and put good use to it. That's about it.
Thanks, Neen. Happy 30th.
Take care, man.
So this is the old hen class. Old hens. Lovely looking hens. Up for judging next. Okay guys, this is our North American old bird record holder, Sikander Ball, as you all know. So we thought it was kind of important to ask him a couple of questions about his methods when flying Tipplers. So I thought this was a great opportunity to, at our 30th anniversary, to ask the man that currently holds the record. So Sikander, we know how well you've done last year and even this year flying wise. So we wanted to ask a couple of questions and some of the secrets you may carry with you. So just kind of in general, how do you choose your breeders, and you know, what is it that you use to select what birds you're going to be breeding this year or next year?
I'm still new, I'm still learning. I don't have a particular method that I follow, but I just look at the birds I like to breed.
Yeah.
I just choose pair, and then.
Do they have to be flyers, or they have flown or anything like that, or would you
really.
stock birds?
If I know the history of my birds now, I know how well they've flown, their parents or their youngsters, so I just keep on following the same pairs. Or I try different things. I try pair up differently each year, and just to see what they do with the different.
I know you started flying this year. You had some good times, but unfortunately, you and the rest have problems with the falcon. How bad of a problem are you currently experiencing?
Right now, I can't fly anything right now. Every day I'm losing birds, like 1-2 birds every day. Every time I put them out, they get hit, and they're coming without the tails.
Right.
Feather missing, and sometimes the birds don't show up back, you know.
So currently I would guess you would be flying some young birds, or trying to?
I've banded 63 birds and I have 4 to fly now. That's all I left, yeah.
So what, Sikander, which do you prefer to fly? I mean, I know you set the record with old birds, but which do you prefer, young or old?
I prefer, old birds are much easier to train and settle and everything. So I prefer old birds, but I'm trying the young birds as well. It's not that I've given up, but I'm still trying. You
know, I always thought older birds are a little bit easier because you pull them out from the winter and they're kind of used to flying, and it just takes a little bit of while. But I always thought with young birds it's exciting, but settling and all that sort of thing, and the unknown, right?
It's challenging. The young birds are a bit challenging with all the hawks and everything.
So during your training, let's say of young birds, let's stick to that. What do you how do you train them on, and how many times a week, how many hours, that sort of thing?
When they are just weaned, like 4 weeks old, I bring them out. I have a little platform set up outside the loft. I just let them sit there. That time they can't even fly and go to the loft yet. It's really young.
Okay.
And let them sit there like hour, 2 hours in the evening.
Gotcha.
For a few days. And they start going to the roof themselves, on the roof of the loft themselves. And then I don't tie their wings anymore, nothing. So just they are their own.
And how many do you settle, would you say, on average? What percentage? Most?
No, maybe 40%.
Wow,
Yeah.
that low.
Yeah. it
Well, I
is.
know the Falcon doesn't help.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting them started. They're settled now. They're going in training. How many hours do you kind of hold them down to, and how many days per week?
About an hour and a half, first few flights,
Yeah.
4 or 5 flights.
Okay.
And then slowly I,
Increase?
increase about 3 hours, and then slowly I want to take them into night.
Okay.
And
How many times per week would you put them up? Once they're
initially, 3 times.
3 times. So every third
Second
day.
day or
Yeah.
third day, yeah.
Okay, and you're able to do that with
Yes.
work and family?
Yes, I can.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's very good because not
I'm
all of
free
us.
in the evening, so that's when I fly them. Yeah.
Wonderful. Feed up. Any kind of thing that you use once the birds are ready? Any kind of protocol that you have for feed up that you can talk to us about?
Yeah, I give them high protein in the beginning,
Yeah.
the first day or the second day, and then I give them high carbs.
Okay.
And the last day I give them a little bit of fat.
A little bit of fat.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you do a double feed like morning and evening,
Yes,
or do
I
you stick to? Do you?
I do in the morning, half in the morning, half in the evening.
Okay. What is your preferred length of feed up? 3, 4, 5 days?
Old birds 4 days.
Yeah.
And young birds 3 days enough.
3 days is enough.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you telling us a little bit about what you do and how you do it. Anything you'd like to add in respect to flying record times? Anything for the rest of us?
Well, nothing much. I'm just
No?
try hard, and
Yeah.
you'll get somewhere.
Somewhere. Well, I think it wouldn't be bad also if you started with some quality stock, I think.
Yeah.
In general, anything you want to say kind of in closing, since it is our 30th anniversary and you're currently the kingpin?
I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, I think we should keep the friendship between the members and, just enjoy it as a hobby.
That's for sure.
Yeah, let the others enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much, Sikander, and happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you so much, Luca.
Take care. This is the old cock class. Some lovely looking cock birds.
This is our first attempt to hold a picnic and a show in the park, and it won't be the last, that's for sure. I'd like to invite everyone and thank you everyone, all the efforts you guys put in. It is our 30th anniversary as well. And if Oscar did not start 30 years ago, this club, this idea, I don't think we will be here today gathering in a park and talking about CNTU or Tipplers or this cake at all. So at this moment I'd like to say thank you to Oscar for his idea, vision, and whatever hard work he put into the club and the birds, which we enjoy today. Done tremendous, humble guy. Appreciate, and I would be very delighted if Oscar will cut this 30th anniversary cake for us, because he's the one who started the club, and it'll be an honor for us if he does it. And with that, Oscar, it's all yours.
Thank you, and I believe everyone deserves the same credit as I do.
Wow, thank you.
Special thanks goes to our sponsor, Pizza Depot. Thank you so much for this, for your support. Thank you.